Hey everyone, welcome back to another weekly video of cool astrology at Haunted Cerebral. I hope everyone's been doing well. Whatever last week brought for them, I hope that you're able to come out of it now with a bit more optimism looking into the coming future. So I'm going to try and just get right into things this week because there is a lot going on. Some of the biggest things of the spring are actually happening this week. So let's just get right into it. Oh yeah, also, I just want to thank everyone for your continued support of me and the channel. If you want to support me and the channel, it's really easy. You can just hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. If you want to book a reading with me or anything like that, all the information you're going to need is in the description box below. So let me just see, let's look at some of the transits for this week. So wait a second. So yeah, I mean, the main things going on this week are going to be that Mercury is going to conjoin with the North Node tomorrow on Tuesday, May 11th. And then Mercury also and then Jupiter actually goes into Pisces on Friday, May 14th. So that's pretty big time. Thursday is basically like a build up to that. And then the remaining of the weekend is like having the moon in Cancer. And then we have 4 planets in domicile. So that's pretty exciting. But let's get into the real time and then we can check out more of what's going on. All right, so it's already a bit late in the day today. Sorry about that. It's been one of those days. It's been one of those weeks for me. I had to make a lot of readjustments because I got hit pretty hard with the side effects from the AstraZeneca vaccine last week, but I'm feeling back at it. And it's a beautiful day today. So I had to take a little bit of advantage of that earlier than just kind of jump into work. All right, so I just going to talk about some of the things that kind of led up to later this day and what kind of flavored the day was. Before the moon actually moved into Taurus earlier, just before it left Aries. Let's move back a bit here. Also, I'm going to take out. So now we're starting on Monday, May 10th here. And just before the moon left Aries, it made this nice sextile to Jupiter in the middle of the night. This kind of carried this friendly vibe into maybe our dreams, into the night as general. Some of us may have actually gotten the first full restful night that we've needed in a while too. So that's a really positive thing to kind of that was building up through probably Sunday into Monday. It was just like the body and the nurturing we needed for that restful evening probably just like came in. So, and then that's just like a friendly and harmonious affirmation that can be kind of carried on into the day. And then kind of shortly after, the moon enters into Taurus and that kind of changes dignity. Now moon's also exalted and this kind of increases like the fortunate circumstances of whatever Taurus area of life we have in our chart. So if you have Taurus in the 10th house, then maybe something fortuitous in terms of career comes up. If you have it in your 7th house, something with relationship, et cetera, et cetera. So basically we kind of woke up today with that kind of determined, willful quality into the morning. Also, by the way, in case anyone wants to follow around, I should have mentioned earlier, but actually I'm doing this from Berlin, Germany. So if you get confused why it's like, oh, well, that wasn't in the middle of the night for me, it's because I'm in Berlin, Germany, and that's the timing I'm doing it. So if you want to look at transits from where you are, just adjust the location and it should just be the same kinds of energies, but maybe with a different environmental context on some level. Okay, so getting back to what I was on, it was just like, yeah, so this kind of brings up into the morning. We kind of wake up with a more determined and willful quality in our morning. And there's kind of like that vital essence that we're going to need to like understand what it is we need to do and what it is that we want to do and what we want to get the most pleasure out of today as well. So there's also a chance now for a fresh start. And there's more of like an adaptable emotional quality to the beginning of this week, and to like see that, okay, maybe this week we can kind of expect how the week is going to go, but there's also this kind of feeling that, okay, well, maybe there's also a way that I can do it from a more grounded position as well. And also just like that there could be a changing plan in general. So maybe there was this plan for today. Maybe it wasn't something that was so set in stone. It wasn't such a solid priority for us. Or maybe something came up that was more related to these topics of the Taurus area of our life, or to things that we're planning already, things that are about getting grounded, getting more rooted, getting more determined about where we're going forward and that propelling motion forward. And something kind of came up for us that's better for us. And we like took the initiative to kind of change our plans for that and to try and like adjust to those. So getting kind of our priorities straight, like our constitutional priorities straight and things. So yeah, also just that like now the moon is in Taurus. You know, I just want to make sure that my microphone's on. Yeah. Okay. So imagine I did all that without the microphone on. So yeah. And also I just want to mention that now the moon is in Taurus, you know, the new moon vibes are in effect. And it's like really time to settle up what was initiated from the last new moon. So wherever you have Aries in your chart, whatever was kind of initiated 4 weeks ago, that's going to be kind of settling up now. Whatever didn't work out, it's like, okay, you gotta it's just like too late. It's too late now to make whatever was started then try to work now. And it's not really worth expending any more energy on it, right? So just know that like, now's the time to kind of really let go of anything that's not really working from this last lunar cycle in the last 4 weeks. So there's going to be a lot of big activity this week too. And I think it's really important to use this new moon as like kind of a stepping ground, or like a chance to settle in it right now, because we're not going to get a lot of time to settle in the coming weeks during this next lunation cycle. There's just going to be a lot of busyness going on. And so the best thing to do right now is just like take that break that you need and then get back up right away. So, put down on paper like your plans as well. That's the best way to kind of get ready to like execute them, so that you always know what's the next best thing to do in accordance to what your plans are in general. Things are just settled down really for the moment. And it's only for the moment so that we can like catch our breath and get back out there. Okay, so that's kind of it for most of the day. And then let's just catch up to where we are now. So now we're around like 4:30. And then basically moon keeps moving towards that conjunction with Uranus. But before it does, around the end of the day, it makes this sextile to Mars. So Mars is still in the moon's domicile, Cancer. So the moon now has like resources enough to give to Mars, even though Mars is still in a bit of a crabby, unhappy place there. So I think a lot of people are having a lot of difficulty in this Mars Cancer transit, especially if you have Cancer in one of the more difficult houses. So I think, yeah, this moon sextile to Mars brings on that drive to kind of apply some more effort maybe in the direction that we're heading. So moon is maybe more able to sympathize with Mars and able to at least like give it the space it needs, or at least be more willing to compromise with it as well. And there's just a bit more harmonious energy between them with the sextile. And this could be like a bit more willingness and excitement to the end of our day as well, and can kind of take us into the evening with the sense to know like what tomorrow is about as well. So we're kind of be already prepared for some of the things that will occur tomorrow as well. And it could, in fact, be a bit of a difficult night in general, because the moon is moving towards this bodily union with Uranus. And so there's a lot of anticipation. And so I think it's a good idea tonight, if you have time, to like write out your plan, especially for tomorrow, so that like, because I always find, at least for me, the best strategy to this what if thinking is to just get it out in front of me so that I don't have it anymore in my head, and I can like go to bed with some peace of mind. So that kind of just like ends Monday. So let's just roll forward into Tuesday, because Tuesday is kind of a bit of a bigger day. So Tuesday, May 11th, the first kind of thing that goes on, of course, is this bodily union conjunction with Uranus. It also then kind of shortly after squares with Saturn. So this is happening kind of in the middle of the night, and it kind of carries over into the morning. This may disrupt and a bit torment some of our dreams, maybe, and some of our sleeping patterns. It's going to be very, very different from the night before, bringing back up some of the continuing hardships of 2021 in general, and maybe some of the sudden disruptions that have been occurring in the fixed signs. Maybe, you know, wherever you have Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius in your chart, there's been some hardships and disruptions that have been going on in these parts of our lives that we really don't want to change so much, but they have been changing because of Uranus there, and just like squaring with Saturn. So the square is going to forcefully propel things forward too. So it's part of this kind of story. It's also part of the Taurus story. So wherever you have Taurus in your chart, and the struggle to feel steadfast, rooted, and maintained is going to be brought up again. So the problem is that we're really like trying to make our lives into this ideal and stable place. Yet we also know that the world right now is an unstable place. It's kind of unrealistic to think otherwise. So it's about just getting more in touch with reality a little bit. And things are still pretty sensitive with the moon after having carried that sextile from Mars. And but we're going to have to like push forward. We're going to have to like apply some persistence in order to get through whatever it is that's like disrupting things, that's changing things that we really don't want changed right now. So there's going to be some delays. There may also be some pitfalls. And there may also be just some emotional instability in general. But, you know, right now, also, I think it's important to note that most things are just working on necessity. I think a lot of people are just in a necessity phase right now, or necessity mode. So there's just like really no time for maybe some people to explain themselves to others. And it's just kind of like what we're doing is what we need to do. And there's not really anything else to say about that. So if people are like misunderstanding others, they can at least like maybe find a way to sympathize with the fact that like not everyone has the same amount of resources that we have. Not everyone has the same amount of time that we have. Not everyone has the same, you know, is at the same place spiritually or emotionally as we are. So there's a point here where we can kind of like, if we can kind of like step back and say, okay, well, you know, everyone's kind of running on necessity right now. And sometimes we have to put other plans aside in order to, especially plans that don't have a clear outcome, to kind of get what we need out of the way. So that's kind of an interesting thing that goes on through the evening, and it may just like it may be happening for a lot of us, you know, like I said, because some of us are sleeping right now. And and if you're not, I mean, if you're in the US or in Canada, or you're further east than Central Europe, then maybe this is happening at a different time. But basically, the energy is the same. If it's happening here in Berlin, maybe you're sleeping, or maybe you're out partying, whatever. But this is like the processes that are going on with you, whether you're asleep or awake, is what I mean. So I think another thing to point out is that, let's see, where am I in my notes here? Because Mercury conjoins with the North Node today. And let's just go forward to that anyway. Yeah, so basically, Mercury moves into an exact conjunction with the North Node in the afternoon. I think it's also good to point out that like Mercury retrograde cycle is coming up. It's not in shadow yet, but it will be this week. So this is kind of an important time, and you can kind of think of Tuesday, May 11th as a bit of a precursor to what we can expect from this retrograde cycle, this Gemini retrograde cycle. So this is the second retrograde of the year, and the retrograde actually starts on May 30th, but the shadow will be this week when Mercury hits 16 degrees in Gemini. So wherever you have Gemini in your chart, this is kind of the things that you're going to need to go over again. And right now, I think with on Tuesday in the afternoon, it's really like this could be just kind of a clicking moment as well, where kind of our thoughts become very clear on this topic, subject, or issue. And then this kind of process starts to begin in terms of whatever area of life Gemini is occupying, or whatever things you were already been thinking about, whatever exchanges we've been already making, whatever kind of things we've been trying to figure out. There will be this kind of clicking moment. So, you know, exchanges could be made, messages are being written or received, and you know, skills are being employed. And I think this is also a moment when we may even clearly see that like that first kind of domino is being kind of struck forward. So events are about to be unfolding as we go forward. And joining with the North Node, there could be some fate to it. You know, the nodes are where eclipses happen, and the eclipses are always associated with fate on some level. So maybe the thinking we're doing, the messages we're receiving and sending, the exchanges we're participating in, maybe in markets or whatever, these are kind of associated with something that is fated, like there's no way of changing it on some way. And I think this is also a good time to talk a little bit also about what the North Node or the nodes natures in general are. And the North Node's essential nature is just that of increasing. So when Mercury comes into contact with the North Node, all these mercurial matters are going to increase. And on top, Mercury is domicile. So it's just a really powerful mercurial day and moment. And there could be a potential for things to go too far, too fast. Maybe thoughts are ahead of the body, things like that. And maybe we get obsessed on an engagement of some kind that's really difficult for us to get away from. Something that's, you know, maybe something with our technology, something with messages that we're exchanging on some level, or, you know, if you're following stocks or you're following some kind of market on some level. Or Mercury also kind of rules over very busy places, so marketplaces too, or train stations, places where there's a lot of like coming and going. And this could just be increased. This could be a bit obsessed over. Okay, and then kind of what's interesting, I mean, this day is pretty big too, because this is also when the new moon in Taurus takes place. So let's kind of just talk about that for a little bit. So the new moon in Taurus happens exactly, I don't have it here. I mean, you know, I'm not going to move it forward because actually it happens exactly at 8:59 p.m. in Berlin, central Germany, central Europe. This is a chance to get grounded on whatever Taurus area of life we have in our chart. So wherever Taurus is in your chart, this is like that kind of, it's the one time in the year where a new moon happens in Taurus, and where we can kind of plant the roots, plant the seed in that Taurus area of life to get rooted, to get grounded, to, you know, think about what needs to change in that area of life, or what doesn't need to change, but rather what needs to get grounded and committed, and how can we, adjust ourselves now to a more steadfast forward motion rather than something that is more impulsive, because this is like it's what's great I think about this new moon too is it happens past Uranus. So even though Uranus is co-present, it's at least 10 degrees away from the new moon, so it's not really having a massive effect on it, and the new moon's not making any hard aspects to anything. So it is a chance for us to plant that seed, to get the breath, to catch our breath in this Taurus area of our life that we need, and find out where we stand on the matter, what is our side, what is not our side, and just kind of be like, okay, and that's it. There's a lot of distractions right now in the world and in our lives. There's a lot of us taking on a lot of things, and a lot of us maybe taking things off course. What can we do now to kind of get back to maintaining our course on a greater scale? Sometimes I like to think of Taurus as like the long view rather than the short-term view. And because these are more like investments for the long term. Like when you look at a company's assets holdings, they're going to have like current assets and long-term assets. And those current assets are going to be things they're going to be using within the 12-month period, while those long-term assets are things they're planning to have for like a really long time. So this is kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, well, what is that asset now that needs to be, engaged with for the long term? So yeah, and trying not to get too off course with things. And, also, I like to also think about this too as well. It's like, what can we do to keep on like whatever crumbling, like often you see in like fantasy stories or in movies and things like that, there's this kind of fight up the crumbling staircase to the top of the tower in some level. And it's like, what can we do to keep on the staircase that's crumbling beneath us in order to get to the top of this tottering tower? This is going to be long, but it's going to be a very fast lunar cycle. And I know that sounds contradictory, but just watch it. It's going to feel like the next 4 weeks is a long time, but just like lots of stuff is going to be happening. So, and the new moon, of course, again, it's going to be engaging with this Aquarius Taurus square. It's close to the square with Jupiter. It's just in a sign-based square with Saturn. So it's re-engaging that fixed sign tension that's been going on through the year anyway. And there is pressure, right? There's pressure to do something. There's pressure to make things work, to make the best of things. And this is not the most comfortable time. So we just have to make the most out of it and do what needs to be done. It's a necessity time. All the fixed signs of lunations this year, so every new and full moon and all the fixed signs this year, are going to be serious and full of setbacks. There's just going to be limitations involved. There's going to be disruptions involved. And that's basically what we can expect from 2021. Things are definitely better than they were in 2020, but they're not anywhere close to what they're going to be in 2022. And that's something I'm going to talk about a bit more, especially because, Jupiter is moving into Pisces this week. So the idea is like, don't get too comfortable right now. Just set down what needs to be set it down and then get back to business. So yeah, that's kind of all I really want to say about the new moon. And then kind of moving a little bit forward, moon makes this sextile to Neptune. Not really much to say about that, but it just kind of closes the day, and it's just before closing up this 24-hour period. So there is kind of a nice, dreamy and ethereal, like rose-colored glasses vibe to the night to end this kind of like mundane pumping day. That's how I kind of see it. So that's going to end Tuesday, and let's just go on into Wednesday. All right, so Wednesday, May 12th. So the day kind of opens with that sextile from, you can kind of see it here. The sextile from Mars to Uranus. not much to say about this. This is not really the big news for this week, but Mars is still really in this like crabby and misfortunate place. It's in fall or depression. And I think it's important also to note that depression doesn't mean like, oh, the planet's depressed and sad. I mean, maybe that's part of it. It's more like it's like a valley, and it's fallen into a darker valley where it can't see the light as much. It can't really see the way to go, and it's going to make more mistakes. It's going to have more mishaps. So yeah, and I think like it's important to note that, just because for some, this is really like an overwhelming transit. I've already heard from a number of people that they're pretty overwhelmed with some things. There's been some changes either to themselves or to their environment or to misfortunes in general that they've had to deal with. And they're just overwhelmed because their usual effort towards these things is not working. So Uranus is also going to continue to shake things up in general. Whatever engages with Uranus is going to be shaken up a bit, but this could also be a good chance to get more inventive in our solutions, to find inventive solutions and to reground things a bit. There is some sympathy between these two. It is a sextile, it's a harmonious aspect, which could mean that there are going to be solutions for those who need it. But yeah, it could hopefully be like a small but unexpected win on some level. So try to see things differently if you can. This is only happening in the middle of the night, so it's not really, it's going to be kind of flavoring things in the middle of the night or into the morning. So if we're having a tough time sleeping, it could be because of this, that kind of stuff. So try to see things differently than always expected. What we normally are expecting maybe from our actions, if we're expecting always impacts and things if we just do this one thing, then everything's going to change and be better. It's like, okay, like get a bit more realistic, that, try to see things differently, that it takes little action sometimes to make big changes. I would say most of the time, my experience has been that the biggest changes in my life happen from incremental actions. So yeah, let's kind of move on from that. I don't want to talk too much about it. Moon then kind of makes its last transit through the fixed sign. Also, yeah. So Moon also is going to move into that square with Jupiter. And this is really like the last transit that the Moon is going to square with Jupiter or make any real hard aspects. So any oppositions as well, or conjunction with Jupiter, because literally in a few days, Jupiter is going to move into Pisces. So I think that's the only thing I really want to say about that. It may just, bring some sort of forcefulness between these two areas of life. It's just, for me, I just feel like this is just reigniting and re-engaging the already existing tensions between these two areas of our lives. So if you look in your chart wherever Aquarius and Taurus are, these are the two areas of your life in 2021 that are having some tensions. Now, this forcefulness could be something that's propelling us towards some good, because it is Jupiter, it is benefic. Moon is also exalted still, so there is some potential for good to come out of this and to propel things forward in a positive way. But it is at the analytic degree, so there could be some kind of climax or conflict involved. So yeah, and then Moon basically moves into Gemini, shifting the energy into mercurial matters. And this really like further emphasizes what I'm really going to talk about now is this exact trine from Mercury to Saturn. So right there. Yeah, so Mercury makes this exact trine to Saturn at the end of the day, basically. So basically at 8:30 p.m. in Berlin. And this is really like a chance to have the support we need to make long-term commitments. Really, this is what this is all about. This is the first like positive aspect, other than the sextile to since the sextile to Saturn, and it's going to be of this Jupiterian, strongly, powerfully supportive and beneficial aspect between the two planets. So commitments with markets, contracts, executive decisions of some kind, scientific or technological fixes that put things back into order. Both planets are in their home signs as well. So this is just a really good time to be committed and to do some serious paperwork, whatever work needs to be done, our homework, our studies, our conversations that need to be had, dealing with numbers, dealing with problems, dealing with things that are more long-term, but that need that kind of short-term figuring out. That's going to be where the good energy is right now. Maybe a message needs to come out that is about something for the long term, something that kind of stretches out a little bit rather than just immediate fixes. So it's a good time to write it down, see lawyers as well, meet with the landlord, send the application, contact the government, and be very firm in our choices and our decisions and our communications. Doesn't have to be so hard-edged. It's not about being hard-edged. It's just about being like, okay, well, this is my position. And it's okay, you have a position, but this is mine, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes boundaries are just about being self-affirmative as well as mutually affirmative. So, the tools are available now to do hard work and to get a difficult message across in general. Saturn and Mercury are also getting ready to both go retrograde too. So there's going to be some turnaround on authorities and markets that we want to avoid before they begin right now. With Saturn, the maturing grounds being gained are going to need to gone back over again. While with Mercury, the market information on some level, we think we know needs to be gone back over again. Basically anything mercurial, anything Saturnian that we think we've already figured out, that we think we have understood, we're going to need to go back over it again. So this is the time to use the good energy in order to avoid any kind of pitfalls moving forward. Realize like what you're doing, get in touch with the tools and resources available as they're available now before it's too late. I mean, not to say that like, okay, you couldn't do it later and your life's going to end. I'm just saying like the energy is good now, so use it. Use what's accessible now. Things make sense now, but they're not going to make sense forever, right? Update with long-term assets. So update maybe your computer, update your phone, update your car, update your washing machine, things like this. Anything that will last you for a long time, technologically speaking. This is a good time to do that. Signing contracts of some kind with those long-term things you can use for the foreseeable future. And that's kind of like what flavors the evening. And so I might as well just move on into Thursday. Oops. Sometimes the annotator, I always forget to move back to the mouse, and then I'm like drawing on the thing, and when I don't want to. All right, so now we're on Thursday, May 13th. So the first thing that really happens is that moon conjunction to Venus, but in general, really moon's basically moving through Gemini all day. So all this kind of Gemini action is going to be activated. It's going to be negotiated with, it's going to be reflected, it's going to be adapted to, it's going to be the main focus of the day, it's going to be the thing that kind of enriches the environment. So, moon conjoins with Venus in the middle of the night. Hold on. Yeah, it kind of happens like, it says here it's still Wednesday, but basically it happens Thursday around midnight. And it will be a chance for us to get in touch with the clarity we've been having in relationships too. So maybe we can go to bed that night. Maybe the buildup of that bodily conjunction, the adherence to Venus that the moon is making, is really just like that time when maybe we got really clear with some of the relationships we're in, whether or not we had the conversations we need to have. We're just clear about it. We know where we stand. can also be a good night to be with a partner or to spend an enjoyable night with flavors and with enjoyable friends and things like that. So if that's something you were planning that evening on Wednesday night, especially if you use that, especially if you use that really good Mercury Saturn trine to do something that you were like, I want to get this thing done. And then you get a lot of good things done. And it's like, okay, well, that nice moon conjunction with Venus is going to be something you can reward yourself with. Right. So basically then the moon just keeps going forward through Gemini. And it makes the conjunction with the North Node. And so things are just speeding up now. It's now the middle of the day. Things are really speeding up. The pace is fast now. Right. It's just increasing the mood of the day. And then the moon moves into that trine with Saturn. And this is just like to further form that comfortable and secure feeling in the commitments we're making right now and to just move forward. And then the moon makes a conjunction to Mercury. And so, yeah, we're feeling good about the message. We can communicate clearly our sides in the matter. We know how to use the tools to get peace of mind, to get a clear and better perspective on things. We know who is working with us and we have an easy access to them too. We don't need to question what it is that we are learning as well and how to use it. This is us turning new knowledge into working resources. This is like finally getting the help from that consultant or lawyer or whatever that you needed to tell you what to do and how to do it and how it all makes sense. And, things are just fast right now. They're stimulated, they're communicated, they're exchanged, they're figured out, they're fixed, like fixed as in repairing and traveling towards things without questions. And we can kind of take this all over basically into the evening. So this is like the end of the day anyway. And we can kind of take this all over into the evening. And when we go to sleep, we know that we're on this route towards solutions. And Jupiter really is like just like, it's like 2 minutes from moving into Pisces. So this increases the hopefulness about the possibilities of what until now pretty much seemed unredeemable or slightly hopeless on some level. And in a lot of ways, I think a lot of people still feel very hopeless about the condition of how things are going. So let's just like close up Thursday and move right into Friday. Wow, I think we're kind of speeding through this too. So let's just move right there to that. Boom. That's the boom. So Jupiter just moves into Pisces. This happens in the middle of the night here in Germany, but we're probably already feeling it, right? Especially since Jupiter entered that anaretic degree. So Jupiter enters Pisces very early in the morning, basically in the middle of the night. But this is basically, like I said, it's been building up through all of yesterday. Yesterday was all about what that changes into the double-bodied mutable signs are really going to mean for right now, in this preview of right now into 2022. So like this is moving into big, spacious, safe space that has all the possibilities we want and we need. Now, I think it's really important to reiterate that this is like big context for the month, including the year, but really this is a preview. It's a preview about what 2020 will be bringing in Jupiter-like things. So Jupiter-like things include order, cohesion, affirmations. You can just think of Jupiter as the big green light. It's like, have you ever been to like drag races or anything like that, or played racing games or anything like that? And it's like that everything's building up and it's like red, yellow, and then green, and then everything goes. It's like, that's what Jupiter in Pisces is. It's like that move into the green light. And so we're getting that like kind of peak on the horizon. It's like if you ever go hiking, like where you're going, but maybe you're at this part in the hike where it's like kind of a difficult part, but you can kind of see over the next ridge what the better position is beyond that. And now we're kind of on the ridge before it. And there's still difficult territory to go through to get to there, but we can kind of see what's on the other horizon. And even though there's a valley in front of us, we know that the grass is greener on the other side. And if we can, and if what we're looking for is these Jupiter-like things of like good luck, expansiveness, or whatever, wealth, prosperity, Jupiter also represents religion on some kind, but religious wisdom, spiritual wisdom, things that like enrich us and support us and benefit us on a greater scale. Because Jupiter, Zeus was the order maker, the judge, the kind of king of the gods between the earthly realm and the heavenly realm, and kind of kept things in order, kept things in place. So, from that perspective, if those are the things that we're looking for, then this is actually showing us that those things are possible, that fair treatment is possible, and that good outcomes are possible if those are the things that we're looking for. It's all about perspective though, right? So this is like the opposite basically of Jupiter being in Saturn signs. Just look at what Jupiter in Capricorn was all about. 2020 was Jupiter in Capricorn. 2021 is Jupiter in Aquarius, right? 2022 is going to be Jupiter in Pisces. It's going to be different. And we're going to have a taste of that now until July. And so this is allowing life to show us life beyond what we are already dreaming it could be, right? Jupiter has been up until now only access to Saturn's resources, which means everything's limited. But now Jupiter can see the sources of its resources. It doesn't need to get like a taste of it. It doesn't need to buy one bottle of water when it like knows that it can just go to the lake or something like that, or it knows that it can just go to the tap. Maybe the tap water has been clean all along, so to speak. So why are we rationing out all of a sudden what we have access to? And so it's kind of just seeing beyond the limitations, seeing the forest beyond the trees. And in Buddhism they often say like seeing the ocean beyond the waves, because no wave is separate from the ocean. So there's comfort with possibilities of a brighter and a more abundant future that is not just about this like suffering, doom, isolation, restrictions, hardships that a lot of people have been experiencing recently. Life isn't going to be gumdrops and rainbows. It's life, right? We have to be realistic, but there is going to be more possibility. And if that's what we're looking for with Jupiter and Pisces, it will there'll be more availability to those possibilities. So we can see what's available now. We can smell the food that's prepared for the big feast. We know that there's going to be a great deal to be had. Jupiter, what's really cool too, is that Jupiter's in domicile now. Saturn is in domicile now. Mercury's in domicile now. And then tomorrow, Moon moves into Cancer, is in domicile. So there's going to be four planets in domicile. The two heavyweight planets are in domicile. And that's just like, that doesn't happen all the time. Anyway, I'm going to this kind of leads me over into tomorrow anyways, just to mention that Moon's moving into Cancer. So let's just go on into the next day. So that just kind of like is the big sweeping motion of Friday, May 14th. So the Moon just goes through that. That's like the day. All that Gemini stuff, all the stuff that was kind of going on even from Thursday as well, that build up to it, and then we're in the midst of it too. Okay, so then Moon moves into Cancer, and look what it does right away. Makes a very strong trine to Jupiter. So it makes a Jupiterian aspect to Jupiter in Jupiter's home sign, while Moon is also in Moon's home sign. So, right, it's like now we have 4 planets in their domicile. This is like time to think, dream, work, and understand in big ways. Go beyond the box. Don't even see that the box and the table it's sitting on are just one, that the room and the table are just one. It's like, it's in that, it's what they say in Zen, when we have this enlightening period where body and mind drop and you realize that there's no difference between the world around you and your experience of the world too. And, you know, this is a time to go beyond. Don't let this pass you by, really. There's so much energy to work with now. There's so much access to resource now on an energetic level, that what can become, of what can become, if it's like by becoming itself, the concept of becoming, not just becoming into something, that it would be really like a shame to miss that flow of the river now. You know, it's like if you're going portaging or whatever, rather than carrying the canoe all the way over here, if you can get on the river to go all the way there, why would you not do that, right? So just think about it that way. The moon then basically, like I said, it makes this really strong trine to Jupiter. It all happens in the middle of the night, of course, but it carries over into the day. The moon's always going to carry over the aspects it makes. So the whole day is flavored by this absolutely refreshing, hopeful, dreamy, life-enriching and nourishment that cannot be compared, really. Like, this hasn't happened in a long time, and it hasn't happened with these two planets in their domicile like this in a long time. I don't know the exact time when last, but it can't be compared. Sure, we have Mars still being crabby, Debbie Downer, but it's totally beside the point. And with Moon there in domicile, Moon's having a say over Mars anyways now. So there's at least some conversation that's good going on, like Moon can check in on Mars. So just be clear, like, whatever's not your problem is not your problem, right? This is an enriching and vitalizing. There's all this space we need to have, all the things we didn't even know we wanted could be possible, right? So all these planets are in domicile just basically means that the engine is really well oiled right now, and it's really operational. So there's no possible way of like falling into pitfalls, even with the effort, the willful planet Mars in its fall and its depression. It's like there's just so much there's so much good there's so much function happening that it would be like impossible to just like fall in the pothole, so to speak. So just go with it. Just trust that this is working. Just believe that you have what you need now to do it. This is the opposite of challenging. Take on responsibilities if you want them. Saturn. Give the commands you want to give. Jupiter. Make the deals you want to make. Mercury. Reflect the world the way you want it to be seen. Moon. Take the leap of faith. This is not like about, you're not misunderstanding things. It is true. Understanding that the purpose, you can, like, this is a time where, like, with the moon in its domicile, Moon's often about this understanding of purpose. And it's like understanding the purpose of the world and then understanding your purpose in that world too. So see the good beyond the obviously bad is the idea. Be realistic. Of course, Saturn is involved. You know, this is like flavoring the whole thing with Saturn. But know that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be this perfect picture to be a life beyond our wildest dreams, right? It just, like, just because we didn't dream of it doesn't mean that it's not good for us, right? And so that's kind of like really what I want to say about all that. The other thing though is that, you know, today now Mercury moves into shadow. So, which means basically that whatever's happening now is what we're going to have to go over again in the next month once the Mercury goes retrograde on May 30th. So June is all about that Mercury retrograde. And the idea being, you know, if you were given the link to a website you're going to need, make it into a tab so you can come back to it later. Don't just forget about it. Don't just write it down. Make it into a tab so you can go back to it later. Make sure your tabs are clean, you know, and don't have like 40 million tabs open, but at least have this one. If you have lots of tabs, make this one into the window, make its own window rather than a tab, because you're going to want to have to come back to this later. Anyway, so let's just move forward. So that just flavors the whole day, right? That's just the whole day. Moon is moving closer and closer to that conjunction with Mars. And now we're into Sunday, May 16th. First thing actually that happens is before the moon actually even gets to that conjunction with Mars. I mean, basically they're in an adherence. Moon's adhering to Mars. So there is some difficulty that's coming into maybe our emotional, our dreams, our bodies a bit. Maybe there's some things like that. Maybe wherever you have Cancer in your life, so there's some environmental circumstances that are getting harmed on some level. But there is also this sextile to Uranus, and basically like Moon is just continuing through Cancer up until this point, just carrying over all that exciting and big energy from the day before, and I'd say the last 2 days. So there's big things that are past us now, so we can kind of like see that there's open seas forward. And with Moon kind of sextiling Uranus and then making this conjunction to Mars, it happens in the middle of the night, and it really is going to just flavor the morning as well. So it's kind of like if you're cooking a recipe and you're at that point where you need to add spice, right? And adding spice to a recipe is not always a bad thing. It's not always a good thing. It's not always necessary even. We just need to do it in moderation if we do, because if we don't use our intuitions with that, maybe our intuition is too strong right now. We're like, oh yeah, this definitely needs some of this, but then it's like totally wrong, right? So we need to act accordingly. So just because it appears to be the right thing to include doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best thing to include to make the best dish. Just think of like Italian food. It's extremely simple. Sometimes all it is just the ingredients themselves. It's not even any spices or anything external to that one dish. And it makes it amazing because it's all about the quality of the ingredients. It's not about how many things we put into it, right? It's about quality. And I think this is really kind of just highlighting in general, how highlighting how off some of us are right now too. Maybe some of us are riding this big wave, this Jupiter wave, everything's awesome, but then some of us are just like having the worst time, actually. So be careful how we indulge in what's happening to us in this moment. Not everybody's on the same page. Let's gonna move that forward so that conjunction happens. Not everybody's on the same page as us. It's not just about us, right? There's a lot of tossing and turning right now. Maybe every position we're sleeping in is uncomfortable, so to speak. But we just have to roll with it. Maybe every role we make, maybe every role that somebody else makes, maybe every role that whatever's going on, whatever area of your life Cancer's in is going on is just uncomfortable. And it's like whatever we do makes it kind of worse. But just because it's like it sounds right and it feels right, like it's getting back to this ingredients thing. Just because it feels right and you think it's going to be right doesn't always mean that it is right. So act accordingly, I think, and try not to be presumptuous about what you assume is the correct thing, right? So it's not whatever's always correct for you doesn't mean it's correct for someone else. Whatever's correct for you now even doesn't necessarily mean it's correct for you later too. So the moon is empowered now. It's reflecting things very powerfully too. So just be clear on what it is you're reflecting about, right? What is your side in things? Write down the problems and compare them to qualities that are motivating those feelings to you. Be clear about your motivations. And do this before impulsively acting out, right? So the idea is not to act out. The idea is also not to act in and hurt ourselves, be like, oh, you screwed up, blah, blah, blah. The point is to do something about it that helps us to deal with the problems rather than turn them into bigger problems. So just be careful. I think just be careful that you're not presuming things about a situation into your reality of the situation. So yeah, like I said, it's not always all about us, right? Other people have things going on with them too. And just because like I said, maybe for some of us, we're riding this big, awesome wave, but then for some of us, we're not. So that kind of is it. I mean, for the rest of the day, the moon continues to just ride through Cancer. And I think, it's going to make, okay, that's it. The moon just basically rides through Cancer. It's building up to that trine to Neptune, but that's actually on Monday. That's next week anyway. And make the most out of this big domicile buildup right now. We got all those planets in domicile. Use that. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of it. I think also it's important to note kind of some of the things going on next week. So Venus is going to conjoin the North Node. So just increasing things with relationships. Venus then also trines with Saturn. So things in relationships too are either committing or they're parting, hopefully peacefully. Sun also moves into Gemini, joins the big party in Gemini. Gemini season begins. Happy birthday, Geminis. And then eclipse season is really beginning. And then Sun squares with Jupiter, applying a bit of maybe forcefulness to the propelling of our stories forward. So that's it for the week. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. You're excited about this week. I'm very excited about this week. It's an exciting time. This is kind of the beginning of the rest of the year, really. So, make the most out of all the clear waters right now. Make the most out of those good wins. Make the most out of a good team right now, because it's not going to last forever, and it's not always going to be easy sailing. So make the most of it now. There's a lot of good energy to use, and enjoy it. Just be clear that not everybody is on the same page as you. All right, everybody. Wishing you all the best in this week, and take care. If you want to support this channel, always like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Thank you, everyone, always for showing so much support for me through all this journey together. And if you want to book a reading, just hit me up, contact me, information down below. Okay, that's it for this week. Peace out, everybody. Bye.